Hi, how you doing? And welcome back to another video on the channel. So it's the preview video for Game Week 13. Apologies if this video is a little bit delayed. It usually comes out on a Tuesday, but I have been away. Although I am going to still include all of the usual things like Manager of the Week, the leader of the mini league, as well as how my team did in Game Week 12, as well as the best captaincy options and my team selection and transfer thoughts moving forward. So if you are new to the channel, please do consider subscribing, like the video. It is really appreciated, and let's get into it. So first of all, we're going to do Manager of the Week for the mini league, and shout out to Bilal. 79 points with no chips played is incredible in any game week, and a bit of a differential team as well. There's no Salah, there's no Haaland, but he does have Eze, Enzo Fernandez, and Munoz, which if you did want to have a really good week, you probably needed at least two of those three players. He also captained Danny Welbeck as well, which is a bit of an out there captain, but it's someone who did at least return, unlike my captain in Erling Haaland. Defensively, he also had a clean sheet from Sanchez and an assist from Timber, and a really good week overall. 79 points, you absolutely cannot complain to it. Let's see how he gets on the rest of the season. So shout out to the overall leader in Mark, who remains top of the mini league leaderboard once again by 25 points. Not the greatest week in his FPL season, but 41 points also isn't terrible. So when you don't have those amazing weeks, it's important that you just don't have a disaster week. He still had Munoz, and other than that, there wasn't too many returns. But thankfully, if he didn't have Munoz in his team, it could have been a lot worse. He does have Dewsbury Hall on his bench, and he also had Dewsbury Hall on his bench last week when he got 9 points. So maybe it's time to put Dewsbury Hall into that starting lineup. It remains to be seen, but you cannot complain with being top 10k in the world after game week 12. So onto my team, and overall 47 points for the week. Pretty good score. It actually saw me get a 30k green arrow from about 210k to inside the top 180k. So anytime you get a green arrow at that rank, it's absolutely awesome. The game week rank of 3 million might not seem amazing, but it's really dependent on how the other managers around you do. So you don't, it does go to show you don't need an amazing game week score in order to still get a green arrow when you're at a good rank. So how did we get on? Well, Raya didn't do anything really, no saves points, no clean sheets, but because of that Richarlison long range goal, it kind of wiped out all the Arsenal contributions, which is unfortunate really because those goals are so unlikely to happen. It also meant that Calafiori didn't get a clean sheet either. I did transfer in Van Dijk for Gabriel, and of course, 3 points is better than the no points that I would have got. But with Tarkowski on the bench with 8, it does remain to be seen that if I had kept hold of Gabriel, I would have had Tarkowski's points in, and it does go to show that maybe you don't always need to use a transfer straight away. Mukiele also came off the bench because I had Caicedo and Semenyo in the starting lineup, and therefore they also didn't play. Onto the midfield, and I got 15 points from Morgan Rogers. A really good transfer last week. Swapped Kudus to Morgan Rogers early in the international break, and it really paid off. He was, in fact, first on my bench, which some people might say, oh, it's lucky that you're getting Morgan Rogers points off your bench. But it's also the case that I knew that there'd be a chance that after an international break, some of my starting lineup probably wouldn't play. You just don't know who, right? And because I had Kudus on my bench, who I thought could be injured, I'd rather have a playing player coming off my bench first, just in case. So, of course, it's a little bit lucky that nobody played in terms of Caicedo and Semenyo, but you kind of cover your back by making that chance to be lucky, if that makes sense. You've got to try and create your own luck, and therefore, when it happens, you can get the benefits from it. Enzo Fernandez also did really well with 11 points, and that, to be honest, is where pretty much all of my points came from because up front nobody did anything. Mateta, João Pedro, and Haaland all blanked. João Pedro I kept for the Burnley game. He has already been moved on, and we'll talk about that later in the video as well as my future transfers. But overall, a really good game week, reliant on a couple of players, but that happens more often than not. So into the best captaincy options and the fixtures for this game week, and it's really interesting because there's no early kickoff. We do get three teams or three games kicking off at the same time, so there is a chance of team news, although that is quite unlikely. but really interesting if you're going all in on Man City at home to Leeds. I just think you have to captain Erling Haaland this week. There's not really much of a discussion, especially given that a lot of people who still own the triple captainship are using it on Haaland this week. If I had the captain's triple captain's chip, I would definitely be considering using it on Haaland. I think it's a great shout, especially with that he got quite a bit of a rest during the Champions League in midweek. I think it's just an obvious play, and sometimes you don't need to look for differential captains. And if you do, this isn't one of those weeks. So let's take a look at my team for this game week, and I have got some transfers to use, and I have used one already. So we're going to start in goal with Riot, and we are going to talk a little bit about free hit. I did put out a free hit video earlier in the week. If you haven't seen it with the charts and the data, go check it out. It might help you if you are on a free hit. I'm not going to use a free hit this week, and the reason for that is that I just think there are better weeks in which to use it for my own team. Sure, I've got Raya playing Chelsea and I've got some Chelsea players, but I think I can navigate through this. Now, in defence, I do have Calafiori as well, and because I own Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo playing two Arsenal defenders, there is a potential clash to be had there. Now, for me, I did bring in Van Dijk last game week, and I think having West Ham away is a good game. Also, think Senesi with Sunderland away is reasonable. Now, because all my defence are playing away, that does make it a little bit tricky for the likelihood of clean sheets. In midfield, I do have Semenyo and Mbumo still playing away from home, and Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez. Now, I will likely bench Enzo Fernandez and bring Morgan Rogers into the starting lineup. I think I will keep Caicedo in there just because I think he's going to get defensive returns against Arsenal. And I think having that in your team just gives me a higher ceiling of points. So it will be Enzo on the bench and Morgan Rogers starting. This is likely to be Morgan Rogers' last week in the team. He's only come in for 2 game week spell. Had last week where he got 2 goals, and he's got Wolves at home now. And then I will probably move him on for Cody Gakpo because I just think Cody Gakpo, when you look at the data, whilst Liverpool are doing terribly, he is really underperforming his expected goals. And when a player underperforms expected goals and they have a good run of fixtures, they tend to catch that up at that point. So I think I will be moving Rogers on after this week, even if he is scoring, another 2 goals against Wolves. I will say thank you very much. The remaining fixtures for the next few game weeks don't look great. And I think with the free transfers that we get in game week 16, you can afford to be a little bit more flexible and proactive with your transfers in the short term. So I'm not going to free hit this game week. I don't really see a need to, just because, like I say, in future game weeks, in game weeks 14 and 15, maybe even 16, my team does look a lot weaker. And there are some teams who, with players that I don't own a lot of, that I think I can get in on a free hit that I don't want long term. Up front, I do have the triple up, and I have gone up for Thiago as well from Brentford. I think he's just got great fixtures, and he's someone that I've been wanting to get in for a while. And I would have got him in last week if João Pedro wasn't playing Burnley. So I did miss out on, I think, 0.2 million of Thiago's price rise. That's not the end of the world. I think I've got him in for the Burnley, Leeds, and Wolves games, and then he could score at the other games in between. Remains to be seen. I'm keeping hold of Mateta and Haaland as well, and like we said earlier, Haaland has the captain's armband this week. So my team value is 103.4 million, got 1.4 million in the bank, and currently 2 free transfers. So I am looking at moving on from Tarkowski. Even though he got 8 points, I just think he's quite expensive and he's on my bench anyway. I am likely to move for a Man City defender. That could be this game week. I would probably go for Matthias Nunes over O'Reilly just because there's less competition on the right hand side. And Nunes is also attacking. So it is Nunes, not Munoz. But I think if I'm going to bring in Nunes, do I swap Senesi in the back line? Probably. If I make that move, I could also drop Calafiori, but I just think Arsenal probably likely to keep a clean sheet. Although dropping Calafiori is an option as well. Let me know what you think in the comments. Whether if I did make that Nunes move, what would you do? Would you start Nunes? And if so, who would you drop him for? So for me, the strengths of my team are the forwards. I think you'd struggle to find a better forward lineup, or at least a less popular forward lineup at the moment, and I already have all 3 of those now. And I still have some flexibility. I've got two free transfers remaining this game week. One could be used on Tarkowski, and then next week I could use the other one on Rodgers. And then I'm in a great place to be topped up with free transfers as well, just allow me a bit more flexibility. The weaknesses, however, is that I'm not free hitting, and a lot of people probably are, but I just think it's team dependent, and I quite like my team. Even though I've got that Arsenal Chelsea clash, like I say, if I drop Enzo to the bench, keep Caicedo, maybe I even drop Calafiori to the bench and start Nunes if I bring him in. I think that makes my lineup a lot more varied and a lot more reliable for this game week, and therefore solving any fixture clash issues. So that's the video, that's the plans. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you've got any questions as well, it's always great to hear from you. Thank you very much for listening, and I will see you in the next one.